Nikon F2 is a legendary film camera. People love it and collect it. However, the prices differ a lot, from $100 to over $1,000. What makes the price difference, even at the same condition? The price difference comes from different models of F2. The different models of F2 are based on their viewfinders. Here we have different viewfinders on Nikon F2 body. Nikon F2 viewfinder is detachable from the camera body. You can remove the viewfinder from one F2 body and put it onto another F2 body. The viewfinder is so important that in many cases a desirable viewfinder may be more expensive than a camera body. Nikon F2 is a pure mechanical camera, meaning it can shoot without a battery. It does have a battery chamber at the bottom of the camera body. However, the battery is for metering only. If you don't use the meter, you don't consume the battery. If you put a Dp2 viewfinder on top of it, the battery is useless because the Dp2 viewfinder has no meter. If you put a different metering viewfinder on top of it, then the battery starts to work. For the same reason, Nikon F2 body has no ISO or film speed adjustment. Some people ask me, where do I set the film speed when I put different speed film in it? Well, if you don't have a meter, you don't set film speed because film speed or ISO adjustment makes no sense without a meter. So here you can see that in the camera body, there's no ISO or film speed setting. When you put a metered viewfinder on the camera body, then you need film speed setting. Therefore, the ISO adjustment is on the metered viewfinder, not on the body. Here on the meter, it is the ISO or ASA adjustment. I summarize all models of Nikon F2 into the following table. This is the single most important table you need to know. In this table, Nikon F2 models are listed in the first row. As you can see, model F2 with Dp2 viewfinder has no meter. All other models have meters in the viewfinder. Now I'm going to go through details of these models and their relative price difference. The earliest F2 has a viewfinder called Dp2. As I said earlier, a Nikon F2 with Dp2 viewfinder has no meter, no ISO adjustment, and its battery is useless. You don't need to put the battery in the chamber. Dp2 is the simplest viewfinder at that time. It was the cheapest version. However, today it's not cheap anymore because nowadays most people buy F2 for collection, not for practical use. Therefore, its practical value decreases while its rarity value increases. Dp2 viewfinder is relatively rare compared to other metered viewfinders. Also, early days cadmium sulfide meter is old and may not be very reliable and are bulkier than Dp2. And many may not look as nice as Dp2 to many people. So F2 with the Dp2 viewfinder are more and more expensive. Dp1 is the first viewfinder with a meter in it. A Nikon F2 with a Dp1 is called F2 Photonic. This model has the largest quantity on the market. In other words, most F2s you see on the market are F2 Photonic with a Dp1 viewfinder. For this reason, and also because Dp1 is old, its 50-year-old cadmium sulfide meter may not work properly anymore, its price is the lowest among all models. For the meter to work, you need a battery. Also, there is an ISO adjustment on the meter, on the finder. The Dp1 was designed to match the old pre-AI lenses with a rabbit ear on the coupling pin. You can see here is a rabbit ear. If I remove the lens, you can see there is a rabbit ear on the lens, and also there is a rabbit ear coupling pin on the viewfinder. If you have a newer lens without a rabbit ear, such as an autofocus lens, you have to stop down the aperture to meter. Dp2 is another metered viewfinder. A Nikon F2 with a Dp2 viewfinder is called F2S Photonic. The only difference is the exposure control. Dp1 has a needle control, whereas Dp2 has a LED control. The quantity of Dp2 is lower than Dp1 on the market, so F2S is slightly more expensive than F2 Photonic. Dp3 is yet another metered viewfinder. A Nikon F2 with a Dp3 is called F2SB Photonic. The major advance of Dp3 is using silicon photodiode as the meter element instead of a cadmium sulfide. Silicon photodiode, or SPD, is used in all modern cameras, including today's digital cameras. It is accurate and reliable. Dp3 also uses rabbit ear coupling pin for metering. Therefore, Dp3 is the most desirable viewfinder for pre-AI lens users. Since Dp3 was made for a very short period of time, 1 year only, and in small quantity, F2SB is one of the most expensive models today, comparable to F2AS that I will talk about later. In 1977, Nikon introduced AI, or auto-indexing technology. With AI technology, the rabbit ear on the lens is not needed anymore. Metering is through the AI coupling lever on the lens mount. All Nikon lenses made after 1977 use this AI technology, except today's G lenses and the electromagnetic lenses. With this AI technology, Nikon introduced a new finder, Dp11. A Nikon F2 with a Dp11 finder on top of it is called F2A Photonic. Because F2A can work properly with new lenses, its value is higher than F2 Photonic. F2A works properly with AI, AIS, AF, AFD autofocus lenses. G lenses or the newer P lenses won't work properly. The old pre-AI lenses can work in a stop-down manner. The drawback of F2A is that it still uses old cadmium sulfide metering elements and needle exposure control. The last metered finder is Dp12. A Nikon F2 with a Dp12 on top of it is called F2AS. It is the most desirable metered finder because it has all the advantages. It has silicon photodiode meter, accurate and reliable. It has LED exposure control, and it uses AI technology, therefore works properly with all AI, AIS, AF, and AFD autofocus lenses. I want to repeat that all metered viewfinders have ISO adjustment and need battery to operate the meter. Nikon F2 is a modular system, and its finders are interchangeable. You can put a Dp12 finder made in 1980 on an old F2 body made in 1971 and transform the old F2 photomic into an F2AS. There is no difference in practical use. However, in terms of collection, there is a difference because people want to collect the so-called original package. If the parts are replaced, its value decreases. If you see a Nikon F2 with DE finder, the camera serial number starts with 8, but the DE1 finder has no rubber gasket. Then you know the camera and the finder are replaced because the camera body is made in 1978 and 1980, but the DE1 finder is made earlier. Similarly, if you see a Nikon F2AS with the serial number start with 72, you know that the Dp12 finder is a replacement because the body was made in 1972 through 1973, but the finder was made after 1977. This is just for the picky collectors only. As I said earlier, the replacement does not make any difference in terms of practical use. I have so far summarized all common models of Nikon F2. There are several special models of F2. I have made a video about the titanium version, so I don't want to talk too much about it here today. However, I also want to mention that if you are a collector, you want to make sure that the titanium body matches the titanium DE1 finder. When we talk about collection value, we emphasize condition. Just like when we buy a house, the three most important factors are location, location, and location. The three most important factors in buying a used camera is condition, condition, and condition. However, F2 is such a legendary camera. In my opinion, even a shabby F2 has its own value because it may carry a great history and a great story. Welcome to F2 Club.